They came. With no banners. No slogans, just eyes to watch. But watching was enough. Within hours, they vanished, held, hurt, silenced, and far from the courtroom, a letter had already moved, quietly, efficiently, warning they're coming.
In the quiet embrace of Tanzania's southern highlands lies Mbinga, a town known more for its rolling hills than political drama. But on April 9th, 2025, this peaceful backdrop was shattered by an incident that would ripple through the nation's political bloodstream. Tundu Lissu, the fiery opposition figure and chairman of Chadema, had been crisscrossing the country under the rallying cry, "No reforms, no election." His message was bold, urgent, and deeply resonant, especially among Tanzanians yearning for a fairer, more transparent democratic process. But his rising influence was beginning to test the state's tolerance for dissent. That day, the government's patience finally snapped. Police stormed one of Lissu's rallies, firing tear gas into crowds and dragging the opposition leader into custody in broad daylight. The arrest was swift, aggressive, and symbolic. Lissu was hauled over 1,000 kilometers away to Dar es Salaam, held incommunicado for nearly 24 hours. By April 10th, he stood before the Kisutu Resident Magistrates Court, shackled not just by iron cuffs, but by the weight of a charge few in Tanzania dare face: treason, a crime punishable by death. The prosecution's case, a single speech from April 3rd, where Lissu had declared, "It is true, we say we will prevent the election. We will inspire rebellion. That is the way to get change." A statement the state labeled an incitement to overthrow. But Tundu Lissu is no ordinary politician. He is a survivor of bullets, exile, and authoritarian wrath. A human rights defender, a symbol of resistance. To his supporters, he's a national conscience. To the regime, a ticking bomb. As the trial loomed, Tanzania's entire security architecture braced for impact. Intelligence briefings multiplied, surveillance intensified. The streets whispered of uncertainty. Tundu Lissu had become more than a man. He was now a moment in history, suspended in tension. Then came May 15th. Just as the nation focused its gaze on Lissu's impending legal battle, an encrypted envelope arrived at the headquarters of Tanzania's Intelligence and Security Service, TISS. Stamped, urgent. Inside was a confidential report from Srasfore, a shadowy private intelligence firm often described as the Shadow CIA. The letter contained a chilling warning. 4 individuals were en route to Tanzania. 3 Kenyans, 1 Ugandan. All were considered threats to national stability. Their names: Dr. Willy Mutunga, former Chief Justice of Kenya; Martha Karua, former Kenyan Minister for Justice; Boniface Mwangi, a photojournalist turned relentless activist; Agatha Atuhaire, a bold Ugandan lawyer and human rights defender. According to the Srasfore dossier, these individuals were not tourists or observers, but potential agitators. The letter claimed they were involved in Kenya's bloody Occupy Parliament protests of June 25, 2024, described ominously as activists for hire, allegedly sponsored by unnamed European organizations. Worse still, the report portrayed Willy Mutunga as the architect of the movement, its invisible hand operating behind WhatsApp chats, mobilizing chaos from a digital command center. Their arrival in Tanzania, Srasfore warned, would be no coincidence. It would be calculated, destabilizing, dangerous. Security services were urged to be vigilant. The letter even pinpointed the hotel where Boniface Mwangi and Agatha Atuhaire were expected to stay. The message was clear. Tanzania's sovereignty was under threat, not from tanks or drones, but from activists with cameras, voices, and global reach. From that moment, every border post, hotel registry, and intelligence unit was placed on high alert. What was really at stake? Was this a genuine threat to Tanzania's peace, or a crackdown on foreign solidarity? On the evening of May 18, 2025, as the sun dipped beneath the Indian Ocean, two prominent human rights defenders quietly landed at Julius Nyerere International Airport in Dar es Salaam. Boniface Mwangi, the outspoken Kenyan activist, and Agatha Atuhaire, a fearless Ugandan lawyer and civil rights advocate, touched down at 6:30 p.m. Their destination? Serena Hotel, the secure and luxurious haven nestled in the heart of the city, mere minutes from the Kisutu Resident Magistrates Court where Tundu Lissu's fate was being decided. Serena is not just a hotel, it's a diplomatic fortress, home to ambassadors, foreign envoys, and visiting dignitaries. Their presence, under such a backdrop, sent alarm bells ringing within Tanzania's intelligence circles. But this wasn't a spontaneous visit. Room 307 for Boniface Mwangi and 301 for Agatha Atuhaire had been booked well in advance, paid in full. Every detail, the flights, the airport transfers, and even meal preferences had been organized by a discreet European-based human rights organization. The Srasfore document would later confirm the logistics were handled with precision and intent. The coordination was traced back to Dr. Willy Mutunga, former Chief Justice of Kenya, not just acting as a legal advisor, but serving as a back-channel coordinator. This wasn't new ground for Mutunga. He had played a similar role during the June 25, 2024 Occupy Parliament protests in Nairobi. A master of quiet diplomacy and digital coordination, he ensured activists and international observers moved like chess pieces, deliberate and always one step ahead. But in Dar es Salaam, the stakes were different, and the Tanzanian security machinery wasn't about to sit idle. As the clock ticked, 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., surveillance on the Serena intensified. Then at 10 p.m., a sharp knock echoed from room 307. It was the FFU, Tanzania's elite field force unit. They introduced themselves as routine security officers, claiming they were conducting a standard inspection.
Inspection kwa usiku wa manane.
But Boniface Mwangi knew better. He refused to open the door. Simultaneously down the corridor, the same tactic was deployed at room 311, where Agatha Atuhaire was also housed. She too declined to comply. The standoff continued until morning. The FFU returned.
Identify yourselves! Identify yourselves!
This time with a different script. They claimed they were escorting the activists to the airport for deportation. But what followed was anything but standard protocol. The night before, Boniface had publicly denounced Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu Hassan, referring to her as a murderer.
Don't go to jail. Haven't done anything wrong. And Suluhu is a coward and a murderer.
That statement had not gone unnoticed, and it appeared to seal his fate. The FFU loaded both activists into a convoy of 5 vehicles. Initially, the cars followed the direct road toward the airport. But then, a sudden diversion. The motorcade veered off route, plunging into a more isolated district on the outskirts of Dar es Salaam. What happened next was both harrowing and brutal. According to first-hand testimonies from Boniface Mwangi and Agatha Atuhaire, they were driven to a secret location, a dark, windowless facility, and subjected to physical torture. But the ordeal didn't stop there. Both were also sexually assaulted. Agatha, the Ugandan lawyer, would later recount through her legal representatives that she was raped twice. Her voice, once a beacon for victims of injustice, had now joined their ranks. Meanwhile, their counterparts, Dr. Willie Mutunga, Martha Karua, and journalist Lynn Ngugi, were spared the worst, but not without consequence. Deemed too high profile for the same treatment, the trio were denied entry and swiftly deported back to Kenya without explanation. Under growing pressure from international human rights organizations, and following intense diplomatic engagement from both Nairobi and Kampala, Boniface Mwangi and Agatha Atuhaire were eventually released, not through the front doors of justice, but dumped unceremoniously at their respective national borders, their bodies bruised, their spirits defiant. And that marks the end of today's exposé. If this investigation has brought value to your understanding of East Africa's shifting political landscape, then like, share, and subscribe to LifeLens TV, where truth isn't whispered, it's broadcasted. Until next time, God be with you all.